everybody, this is Kristen, and I have the first clue from the Puzzle Mystery Quilt that Cotton Cuts does. And I'm so excited to share it with you guys. I got my first clue last night and I stayed up much too late working on it because I was so excited. And I am Team Foxtrot. There are a bunch of different colorways, and when I went on this morning there is still some available. So if you're interested, I will give you all the information of how to sign up, and a code to get some free goodies will be in the description box below. So I'm Team Foxtrot, like I said. That one's unfortunately sold out, but y'all can live vicariously through me. And clue one is this. So with these clues, you never know if you're going to make squares, rectangles, some sort of border. Hard to say. We are only making 2 this month. So the fun thing is that they send you everything that you need. So in my, it's not a box, in my package this month, we get the directions. It's theme this month, or this fall, is this way and that way. And I've got the small clue. And it'll tell you how many pieces of what fabric are supposed to be in. And it'll number the fabric 1 through 6. So these are going to be the ones that I am working on. So you can kind of see all the different colorways. And this is going to be something really important that I got to keep with me, because otherwise it'll say number 3 and I'm going, it's one of the blues. So this is important. We also got some stickers. I happen to really like this logo, so there you go. I got 2 of those. I have this really cute little thing of sticky notes, which might come in handy later on if you're numbering your quilt's pieces. I got a Block of the Month card, and I've got a code where if you plug in Ranger when you sign up for this, you get a whole stack of these Block of the Month cards, so pretty fun. And then I also got pre-cut fabric. So the great thing is everything's cut out for you. It's all done. There's no cutting involved at all. Even with triangles, they already cut off the dog ears. So literally, you do not have to pick up a scissors or a rotary cutter or anything like that. The only cutting I do is with my snips to cut off some of those pieces of thread. That's literally all I do. So this month we have 2 different colors of squares. It's really hard to see in this light. I'm sorry, y'all. So 2 different colors squares. I've got a rectangle in this fabric. I've got some really long strips in that same fabric. And a little bigger rectangle. So I'm going to put all of these together, and it's going to create that strip that I showed you earlier. So again, putting them all together is going to turn into this. And we make 2 of them this month. So now, one thing that, that you have to do is be able to sew a consistent 1/4 inch seam. And they actually tell you how to get that scant 1/4 inch. That is so important in quilting, and I highly suggest you work on that, because let me tell you, Jack the seam ripper and I spent much too much time together last night. I thought I knew how to sew a scant 1/4 inch seam, and apparently I'm terrible at it. And you do not want to cut and trim this at all. It specifically says there, do not trim. So it's exactly the size you're supposed to be, and if you're too long or too short with what you sew together, you're gonna have to fix it. There's no hoping it'll work and smushing it together, because in the end it's just not gonna work out for you. So if y'all are interested in sewing along with me, I'm gonna get going on my trusty machine behind me, and I will show you exactly how I put all of this together. Okay, so here we are at my sewing machine. I've got most of everything ready to go. And for the directions, it says that you're going to put one of these smaller fabric pieces, the small rectangle, with one of the squares. And you're going to do that for each and every single one of them. So you're going to make 4 for this first one, and then I made 4 earlier for the one that I showed you. So one tip or trick, you can kind of see that I have drawn a scant 1/4 inch. I am terrible at actually doing a scant 1/4 inch, so my friend Tama suggested, you know what, why don't you draw it? Makes so much more sense. So you're gonna go and put the 2 pretty fabric sides, so right sides together. You're gonna put them together. Me personally, I like to pin. So I'm gonna put 2 pins in here. And that way it just keeps it from shifting around on me. One thing that I do have that I like is this pin. It's magnetic. So none of my pins come out. I don't have to worry about it. And that's something that I think is a really good investment. So on here, you'll also see that I have this little piece of white fabric. And that's just a leader, essentially, so the machine does not chew up my pretty fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the tails of my thread, and that way it keeps it from escaping. I'm going to let it go a couple stitches past that white, and then for me, I like to lift up a little bit and put my presser foot down exactly where I like it. Maybe you're better than me at sewing and you just don't have to do that, but this is how I do it just to make sure that I've got it where I want it. So I'm going to sew directly on that line, and as I come up to the pins I stop or slow down, because if you run over them you're going to bend the pins and you could actually break a needle, and that's never a good day. So there we go, I've got 1 done. I've got 3 more to go for this, and you'll notice all of the ones that I have that line drawn on them so that I can maintain that accurate 1/4 seam inch. And this helps me go a little bit quicker as well, because I have that clear visual reference of where I want my stitches to be. Now, you might have a 1/4 inch foot or something on your foot that you can actually use as a visual reference. Mine doesn't really have that, or at least not one that I found that works for me. So alright, that's all 4 done. You'll notice I chain pieced. It's a lot easier than stopping and starting every single time. And now I'm going to go and press these fabric. Okay, I've got everything pressed from this first go round, and now I'm going to reference my pattern and the fabric numbers. So what we have here is number 2 is this fabric right here, and then this darker blue one is a number 3. So the way the pattern wants us to go is a number 2 and a number 4. So for me it's that orange one, and then it's going to go 2, 4, 2, 3, and you're going to do that twice. So I'm going to set up my fabrics, chain piece them again, set them out exactly the way I want them, and then flip one over, and you'll notice the other side of this also has that 1/4 inch seam. So I already preloaded everything, and that way once I get going I don't have to stop again. pull out my thread a little bit, put my lead fabric on there again so it doesn't eat my pretty fabric. I'm going to hold those ends of the thread. Do a couple stitches off the end so I have something that I can cut. Pull out my needles as I come to them. Or pins if that's what comes to your mind first. Obviously it didn't for me. Got those two done. Gotta cut them apart, and then I'm going to press these open. What I have a habit of doing, at least what I did last time, was I pressed so that both this seam and this seam right here that we just did is to be folded in. Okay, I got everything pressed, so everything's nice and together. My seams are going in on this section here, and now we gotta put these two sections together. So I'm going to take this one, which is 2, 4, 2, 3, and attach it to another 2, 4, 2, 3. So this piece up top here, this 2, is going to go on the end of my 3. My leader fabric in there. Make sure this is nicely lined up. Get a couple stitches off the end and line up again. Alright, moment of truth. We'll see if I managed with that little drawn line, if I actually managed to get the right distance. So I've got my strip of fabric here. Again, I'm going to put it right sides together, so put the pretty side against the pretty side. I'm going to hold it all the way down, and look at this. It's pretty darn close. So once I pin it, theoretically, it'll be right. Guys, it worked. My friend Tama is brilliant. She's a lifesaver, a sanity saver, because I pinned this all together, and here's the end, and look at that. Barely anything right there at the end that doesn't match up. So, clearly I need to start marking my seams, because that works for me. So you just gotta find what works for you. And if a foot works for you, if you can eyeball it, great. I can't. So this is my new favorite tip. All right. So we're gonna sew this long strip together, and then we're gonna do the same on the other side. So I put everything together, I pressed it. Now, one thing you gotta be careful of when you're pinning, when you're pressing with these long seams, is try not to push too hard or pull and distort the fabric. One other thing I want to point out is when you're doing these long seams, you don't want to start at the same side, because then you're going to get a wavy line. So I notice that I started at this side right here. So I'm going to start from the opposite side this time. So I'm going to pin my fabric down, same thing as I did last time, lining up the edges as precisely as I can. I put a ton of pins in mine, and I mean like every inch there's a pin. And for me, I don't mind the slowdown. I'd much rather have everything together and solid. And one thing that I do want to point out as well, that's an oopsie. So instead of making my fabric have this twist, I'm just going to push it to the other side and I'll press that down and make sure that everything is as smooth as possible. So that's fine. It'll get fixed. If you notice it, great. If you don't and you happen to sew it all together, oh well. I've done that I don't know how many times, and so far it hasn't impacted me, but if you feel the need to go ahead and use your seam ripper and rip it out, that's fine too. Okay, so I've got everything pinned and ready to go, and I fixed that one seam. I pressed it already. So now what you're going to see is I've got pins on the other side. It's not the normal side, and that's just because of how I drew my line. It was easier for me to draw it on my long strip of fabric than through all of my different seams. So it's going to be a little awkward, but definitely doable. Okay, so we've got the majority of this done. We have one more piece to add in, and it's that bigger rectangle. So that is going to go on the end that doesn't already have that end cap. It's going to go against that last kind of empty space that we have here. So it should fit perfectly if I did everything correct. Woohoo! Good news is it works. So I'm going to pin here, and then we're going to sew the last piece of this puzzle, this clue for the month. So hopefully I'll see how easy it is, how quick it is. For me, there's a little bit extra prep work drawing that line, but I don't know, I spent 15 minutes sewing plus the line, whereas last night, I kid you not, I probably struggled for 30-45 minutes. So really it's quick, it's easy, it's fun, and I really like that I have a bunch of other people doing this with me, so if I got questions, I'm going, this isn't lining up right, what's going on? I can talk to somebody who's also working on the exact same project and get some pointers, get some tips. Now, speaking of tips, I've shown you some of mine, and I would really love to know, what are some of yours? What are some good tips that you could help me, and by extension, help everybody else watching? So if you've got a good tip or trick for sewing, for quilting, for doing these puzzles, drop me a comment below, and next month when I do a video, I'm going to choose one of those comments and give it to everybody else and give you credit. So if you've got something, please let me know. I'd love to improve. I'm a beginning quilter. I'm a beginning sewist, let's be honest. My mom taught me, eons ago, how to, thread the machine, and hers was horrible. It was constantly breaking. I hated it. I hated sewing. And so I'm really excited I'm getting back into it, but essentially it's, I've been teaching myself. So anything y'all can teach me is going to be pretty helpful. Now, one thing that I did learn is if your machine is having issues with stitches, anything like that, just rethread it. 99% of the time, that's fixed my issue, is rethreading the top, rethreading the bottom, and then it sews a perfect stitch again. So simple but very, very effective. Read your manual. A lot of times that has some good tips and tricks as well. Okay, everybody, so I have finished the second of my two. So this was the one I did last night and struggled with like crazy. And this is the one I just finished with you guys. And I have to say it was way more fun when I didn't have to use Jack constantly. And hopefully this video helps some of you. But the question is, do you guys find this helpful? Do you want me to make another Sew With Me video next month? Or should I just say, here's what I did, here's what I make, yay, and have that be the end of it? So let me know what y'all think. Drop me a comment, subscribe, tell your friends, hit the like button. All of that really helps me keep doing this for you and gives me the motivation I need to keep going as well. So this month we have the 2 pieces done. And so every month, where's my sheet? On the back of the sheet, it'll give you an option of using, you know, A1, A2 to mark your pieces that you've done. My personal feeling is it's shipped in this nice little bag. So why not put clue number 1 back in the bag with thing 1 and thing 2. So at least for this month, that works well enough for me. Maybe farther on, we're going to have a bunch of different clues and things that makes it a little bit more difficult. But that is something that is going to work for me for now. Outside of that, got everything behind me today. I also have these cute little alphabetties, and I might start using these to mark some of my pieces as well. If, you know, if maybe we get 2 clues in a month because we've got multiple things to do. I don't know. But these might come in handy. So this is how I'm doing it for now. And hopefully we will have some of you join us doing this mystery quilt. So again, Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt, and it's 10 months long. You pay either, I think, $17.50 or $25 a month, depending on if you want the small or the large, which in my opinion is great. You know, I can budget for that small amount every month versus I'm going to go out and buy $300 worth of fabric, and that's just a huge chunk that I can't afford. So this for me is kind of a budget thing, and it's fun. I get to do it with other people, and there's already a ton of pictures on the Facebook group that they have to support all this. So it's a great group, lots of fun, lots of different colorways. There's still some available. Check it out and sign up with the code word RANGER, and that's going to give you some freebies when you sign up. Okay? If anybody's got questions, comments, concerns, as always, drop me a comment. I will get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, let me know. Do you have a tip or trick? Share it with us, and I might just pick yours and share it with the group next time. Thanks.